Have you ever had someone look you straight in the eye and tell you that you are not enough? That your best effort, your love, your sacrifice means nothing to them? Well, buckle up, because what I am about to tell you will show you exactly what happens when someone underestimates the wrong woman. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and comment where you're watching from. It was a Tuesday evening in March, and I was standing in our kitchen in suburban Denver, still wearing my scrubs from my job as a medical assistant. I had just finished a 12-hour shift, picked up our 7-year-old daughter Emma from after-school care, helped her with homework, and thrown together a quick dinner. My husband Mark was sitting at the kitchen table, barely touching the spaghetti I had made, scrolling through his phone with that distant look he had been wearing for months. "Sarah, we need to talk," he said without looking up. Those 4 words. Every married woman knows those 4 words mean trouble. I sat down across from him, my heart already starting to race, though I tried to keep my voice steady. "What's going on, Mark?" He finally looked at me, and what I saw in his eyes was not anger or frustration. It was something worse. It was indifference. Complete, cold indifference. "I'm not happy," he said, as if he was commenting on the weather. "I haven't been happy for a long time." I felt my stomach drop. "What do you mean? We can work on this. Marriage counseling, date nights, whatever you need." "No, Sarah." He cut me off with a wave of his hand. "You don't get it. It's not about fixing anything. It's about the fact that you're not enough. You're not enough as a wife, not enough as a woman. I deserve better than this mediocre life." The words hit me like a physical blow. Not enough. Mediocre. I stared at this man I had been married to for 9 years. The father of my child. The person I had supported through law school by working 2 jobs. And I felt something break inside me. Better than what, exactly? I managed to ask. Better than coming home to someone in scrubs who smells like antiseptic. Better than a wife who's always tired, always stressed, always putting everyone else first, except me. Better than someone who has no ambition beyond paying bills and surviving. Each word was like a knife twisting deeper. But then he said the thing that would change everything. "I've been seeing someone else, Sarah. Someone who actually has goals, who takes care of herself, who makes me feel alive again. Her name is Jessica, and she's everything you're not. She's ambitious. She's exciting. She has a real career as a marketing executive, not some dead-end job wiping down medical equipment." I sat there in stunned silence for what felt like an eternity. Emma was upstairs, probably listening to music and doing her math problems, completely unaware that her world was about to be turned upside down. Mark was looking at me expectantly, as if waiting for me to break down, to beg, to fight for our marriage. Instead, I stood up slowly, cleared my throat, and said the only thing that came to mind. "Okay, you'll see." He looked confused. "That's it? That's all you have to say? What do you want me to say, Mark? That I'll change? That I'll become someone else to make you happy? No, you've made your choice. You think I'm not enough? Okay, you'll see." 2 weeks later, Mark had moved out to live with Jessica in her downtown Denver apartment. The divorce papers were filed, and I was officially a single mother trying to figure out how to rebuild a life I thought was solid. The first month was brutal. I cried in my car during lunch breaks. I stayed awake at night, wondering what was wrong with me, why I was not enough. Emma asked where Daddy was every single day, and I had to find age-appropriate ways to explain that sometimes grown-ups make mistakes and hurt people they love. But somewhere around week 6, something shifted. I was sitting in my small apartment. We had to sell the house, looking at my reflection in the bathroom mirror after another exhausting day. My hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. I had dark circles under my eyes, and I was wearing an old college sweatshirt with holes in it. And I thought, is this really who I am? Is this mediocre, tired woman really all I can be? That night, after Emma went to bed, I sat down with a legal pad and wrote down everything I had given up over the years. Everything I had put on hold to support Mark's career, to raise our daughter, to keep our household running smoothly. The list was longer than I expected. I had been 3 credits away from finishing my nursing degree when I got pregnant with Emma. I had always loved photography but had sold my good camera years ago when money was tight. I used to run half marathons before marriage and motherhood took over my schedule. I had dreamed of opening my own medical practice someday, maybe as a nurse practitioner. All of these things had been pushed aside, not because I did not want them, but because I thought being a good wife and mother meant sacrificing everything for everyone else. The next Monday, I walked into my supervisor's office at the medical clinic where I worked. "Janet, I need to talk to you about going back to school." She looked up from her computer. "School? I want to finish my nursing degree. I know it'll mean adjusting my schedule, maybe going part-time, but I need to do this." Janet smiled. "Sarah, I've been waiting for you to say those words for 3 years. We'll make it work." That afternoon, I called Colorado State University and inquired about their accelerated nursing program for working adults. The advisor I spoke with reviewed my transcripts and told me that with my medical experience, I could potentially finish my BSN in 18 months if I was willing to take evening and weekend classes. I was willing. While Mark was posting photos on Facebook of fancy dinners with Jessica and weekend trips to Aspen, I was hitting the books harder than I had since college. Emma and I developed a routine. She would do her homework at the kitchen table while I studied for anatomy and physiology. We turned it into a game. She would quiz me on medical terms, and I would help her with her multiplication tables. 3 months into the program, something interesting started happening. I was not just learning about nursing. I was remembering who I used to be, the woman who had dreams and goals and ambitions beyond just keeping everyone else happy. I joined a study group with other nursing students, most of whom were around my age and juggling similar challenges. For the first time in years, I was around people who saw me as Sarah, the nursing student, not Sarah, the ex-wife, or Sarah, the single mom. I was just Sarah, and that felt revolutionary. One of my study group partners, a woman named Lisa who was changing careers from accounting to nursing, mentioned that her husband was a photographer who sometimes needed assistance for weekend shoots. Would I be interested? I had not touched a serious camera in years, but something inside me leaped at the opportunity. "Yes," I said before I could talk myself out of it. "Absolutely yes." That Saturday, I found myself at a wedding in the mountains outside Denver, carrying equipment and learning from Tom, Lisa's husband, about the technical aspects of professional photography. He noticed right away that I had a natural eye for composition and lighting. "Have you done this before?" he asked as I adjusted a reflector to catch the golden hour light on the bride's face. "Not professionally, but I used to love photography. Life got in the way." "Well, life's giving you a second chance. You're good at this." By winter, I was regularly assisting Tom on weekends, and he was teaching me the business side of photography. I was also maintaining a 3.8 GPA in my nursing program and had started running again, something I did at 5 a.m. before Emma woke up. Just for me. The change was not just external. People started noticing something different about me. My colleagues at the clinic commented that I seemed more energetic, more confident. Emma's teacher mentioned during a parent conference that Emma had been talking proudly about her mom going to school and taking pictures at weddings. "She says you're becoming a superhero," the teacher said with a smile. Spring arrived, and with it came some unexpected news. Tom introduced me to a friend of his who ran a medical photography company. They specialized in documentation for plastic surgery practices, medical journals, and pharmaceutical companies. It was a niche field that combined my medical background with my growing photography skills. "Would you be interested in some freelance work?" she asked. "The pay is considerably better than wedding photography, and the schedule is more predictable." Within a month, I was earning more from weekend medical photography than I was making in a full week at the clinic. The work was fascinating, challenging, and it was mine. Not something I was doing to support someone else's dream, but my own path. Meanwhile, Mark's perfect new life was starting to show some cracks. I heard through mutual friends that Jessica was getting tired of supporting a man who was still paying child support and alimony while trying to maintain an expensive lifestyle. His law practice was struggling because he had been neglecting clients while focusing on his relationship drama. But I was not paying much attention to Mark's problems. I was too busy creating my own success. By the time I graduated with my BSN, with Emma cheering in the audience as I walked across the stage, I had a choice to make. The medical clinic had offered me a substantial raise to stay on as a registered nurse. The photography business was growing to the point where I could potentially make it my full-time career. I chose option 3, both. I negotiated a part-time nursing position at a prestigious plastic surgery practice downtown, where my medical photography skills made me invaluable for documenting procedures and patient progress. The surgeons I worked with began recommending me to colleagues at other practices. My photography business grew organically through word-of-mouth referrals. 18 months after Mark had told me I was not enough, I was earning twice what I had made as a medical assistant, had completed my nursing degree, had a growing photography business, and had regained a sense of myself that I had not felt in years. Emma was thriving too. She was proud of her mom, excited about our new adventures, and had adapted to our new life with the resilience that kids seem to possess naturally. We had moved to a better apartment, and I had been able to start a college fund for her. The real turning point came on a Saturday in October. I was photographing a medical conference at the Omni Interlaken Resort in Broomfield, a high-end event for plastic surgeons from across the region. I was dressed professionally in a black blazer and dress, my camera equipment organized efficiently, moving through the crowd with the confidence that comes from being really good at what you do. I was adjusting my camera settings between sessions when I heard a familiar voice behind me. Sarah? Sarah Mitchell? I turned around and came face to face with Dr. Amanda Chen, a plastic surgeon I had worked with briefly years ago when I was still married. She was now one of the most successful cosmetic surgeons in Denver. It's Sarah Patterson now, I said with a smile. I went back to my maiden name. I heard you were doing medical photography now, but I had no idea you were the photographer everyone's been talking about. Your work is incredible. I've been trying to find you, actually. I want to discuss a potential partnership. We talked for 20 minutes about her vision for expanding her practice's documentation and marketing materials. She offered me a contract that would triple my photography income overnight. As we were exchanging business cards, I saw him. Mark, standing near the registration table, looking confused and slightly lost. He was wearing a suit that looked expensive, but did not fit him quite right, and he was clearly trying to network with people who were not particularly interested in talking to him. He saw me at the same moment and started walking over. I watched his expression change from confusion to recognition to something that looked like shock. Sarah, what are you doing here? Working, I said simply, adjusting my camera strap. He looked at my professional setup, my confident posture, the business card Dr. Chen had just handed me with her personal contact information. Working? But you're a medical assistant. Actually, I'm a registered nurse and a medical photographer. I just signed a contract with Dr. Chen's practice. He stared at me like I was speaking a foreign language. When did all this happen? Over the past 2 years, while you were busy with your new life. Dr. Chen had been listening to our conversation with obvious interest. You know, Sarah, if you have time next week, I'd like to introduce you to some colleagues. There's a new medical spa opening in Cherry Creek, and they're looking for someone with exactly your skill set to head up their visual documentation department. The salary she mentioned, casually, as if it was no big deal, was more than Mark made at his struggling law practice. Mark's face went pale. I had no idea you were doing all this. You never asked, I said. You were too busy telling me what I wasn't to pay attention to what I was becoming. That evening, Emma and I celebrated my new contract at her favorite restaurant. As she told me about her day at school and her plans for her upcoming art project, I realized that everything Mark had said about me being mediocre and not enough had been wrong in every possible way. I was not mediocre. I had just been hiding my potential under the weight of trying to be someone else's definition of perfect. 6 months later, I opened my own medical photography studio. The business grew faster than I had imagined possible, with referrals coming from plastic surgeons, dermatologists, and medical device companies throughout Colorado and beyond. I bought a house, not as big as the one Mark and I had shared, but it was mine. Emma had her own room, I had a home office, and there was space for a proper darkroom where I could work on artistic projects alongside my commercial work. The best part was not the money or the professional recognition, though both were wonderful. The best part was the woman I saw in the mirror every morning. She was confident, accomplished, independent. She was someone who had taken the worst thing anyone had ever said to her and used it as fuel to become more than she had ever imagined possible. Mark called me one evening, about a year after our divorce was finalized. Sarah, I made a mistake, he said. Jessica and I broke up. I've been thinking about everything, and I realize I was wrong about you. You've become, you're successful now. You've really made something of yourself. I listened to him talk for a few minutes about how he wanted to try again, how he could see now that I was actually an amazing woman, how he had been stupid to let me go. When he finished, I said, Mark, I appreciate the apology, but you missed the point. I didn't become successful to prove you wrong. I became successful because I finally stopped trying to be enough for someone who was never going to appreciate what I had to offer. I became successful because I remembered who I was before I spent years trying to be who you wanted me to be. So there's no chance for us? There's no chance for the old us. The woman you told wasn't enough? She doesn't exist anymore. And the woman I am now, she knows her worth, and it's not up for negotiation. Today, Emma is 11 years old and talks about becoming either a doctor or a photographer when she grows up. She has seen her mother transform from someone who accepted other people's limitations into someone who creates her own possibilities. But the story does not end with my professional success. Life had one more lesson to teach me about what it really means to be enough. About 6 months ago, I received an unexpected phone call from Mark's mother, Patricia. We'd always had a good relationship, even after the divorce, and she had watched Emma every other weekend when Mark had his custody time. But this call was different. "Sarah, I need to tell you something about Mark and Jessica," she said, her voice heavy with disappointment. "They got married last month in Vegas. No family, no ceremony. Just the two of them, and an Elvis impersonator." I felt a strange mix of emotions. Not jealousy or regret, but something closer to pity. "How do you feel about that?" I asked. "Honestly, I think he married her because his ego couldn't handle being alone while watching you succeed. But that is not why I am calling." She paused. "Sarah, I want you to know something. When Mark told everyone that you were not ambitious enough, not exciting enough, I kept my mouth shut because I thought it was not my place to interfere. But I was wrong to stay silent." She went on to tell me things I had never known. How she had watched me work 2 jobs to put Mark through law school while pregnant with Emma. How she had seen me give up my own dreams repeatedly to support his career moves. How she had witnessed him dismiss my ideas, my feelings, my contributions to our marriage. "You were never the problem, Sarah. You were the solution to problems he was too selfish to appreciate. And watching you build this incredible life for yourself and Emma, it has been the most inspiring thing I have ever seen." That conversation led to something I had not expected. Patricia asked if she could continue being part of Emma's life, not as Mark's mother, but as the grandmother she had chosen to be. Today, Emma calls her Grandma Pat, and they have their own special relationship built on genuine love rather than obligation. But the real surprise came 3 months later. I was working on a particularly challenging medical photography project, documenting a groundbreaking reconstructive surgery technique for a medical journal, when I received a call from Dr. Rebecca Morrison, the chief of plastic surgery at Denver General Hospital. "Sarah, I have a proposition for you. We are opening a new medical education center, and we need someone to head our visual documentation department. It would mean developing curriculum, training medical students, and creating a comprehensive visual library of procedures. The position comes with a substantial salary, full benefits, and the opportunity to shape how the next generation of doctors learns to document and communicate medical information." The salary she mentioned was more than double what Mark had ever earned as a lawyer. But more importantly, it was a chance to combine everything I had learned about healthcare, education, and visual communication into something that could impact thousands of future medical professionals. I accepted the position, and within weeks, I was working with medical school deans, curriculum developers, and technology specialists to create something entirely new. The work was challenging in the best possible way. Every day brought new problems to solve, new ways to help medical students understand complex procedures through visual learning. The program launched 6 months ago, and the results exceeded everyone's expectations. Medical students using our visual documentation curriculum showed 40% higher retention rates in procedural knowledge compared to traditional text-based learning. Other medical schools began reaching out, wanting to license our materials and methods. Last month, I was invited to speak at the American Medical Education Conference in Chicago about innovative teaching methods in healthcare. As I stood on that stage, looking out at an audience of 500 medical educators and administrators, I thought about the woman who used to cry in her car during lunch breaks because her husband told her she was not enough. That woman could never have imagined this moment, but she had always been capable of it. The most beautiful part of this whole journey has been watching Emma grow up seeing her mother as someone who creates opportunities rather than someone who settles for what is offered. She has learned that setbacks are not endings, but beginnings. She has watched me turn the most painful moment of my life into the foundation of everything I have achieved since. My photography studio has expanded into medical education, creating visual content for nursing schools and medical training programs. I speak at conferences about the intersection of healthcare and visual communication. Last month, I was featured in a magazine article about successful women entrepreneurs in Denver, and next month I am being honored as Healthcare Professional of the Year by the Colorado Medical Association. But the real victory is not the business success or the financial independence, though those things are wonderful. The real victory is that I learned the difference between being someone's version of enough and being authentically, completely yourself. When Mark told me I was not enough, he was right about one thing. I was not enough for the small life he wanted me to live. I was not enough for someone who needed me to stay small so he could feel big. But I was always enough for the life I was meant to live. I just had to stop asking for permission to live it. To anyone who has ever been told they are not enough, believe them, but not in the way they mean it. You are not enough for people who need you to be less than you are. You are not enough for relationships that require you to dim your light. You are not enough for dreams that are too small for your potential. But you are absolutely enough for the life you are meant to live. You are enough for your own dreams, your own goals, your own definition of success. Sometimes the best thing someone can do for you is tell you that you are not enough for their limited vision, because that is when you get to discover just how much you really are. If this story inspired you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories about women who turn their greatest challenges into their greatest triumphs. Share this video with someone who needs to remember their own worth. Your support means everything, and I cannot wait to share more empowering stories with you. Until next time, remember, you are not too much, too little, or not enough. You are exactly who you are meant to be, and that is more powerful than anyone who tries to diminish you could ever imagine.